they have told me that they don't have enough information at this point to identify anything that you've, the letter that was sent to the police, or through to the police, wasn't specific enough to identify any offenses.
Well, I've been sitting with this for years, and it's written on my file, and it makes me seem like, oh, he's just this crazy. You guys love doing that. I'm this crazy psychopathic liar. Why was that statement issued? Why didn't they come in and talk to me if they didn't have enough information? We were waiting on that tape. You can play that tape back. I asked you guys if Pure Regional were going to come in. I sat there month after month after month. No one came. I turned on the TV in September. Pure, declared that Paul Bernardo was, this crazy liar to police. What's the fundamental problem here?
Well,
I know. I mean, justice the Canadian way, and no one comes in, and now you guys are saying that you didn't have enough information.
The man you just saw was Paul Bernardo, one of the world's most infamous serial killers that reigned pure horror in the hearts of Canadians. He attacked his victims while his wife, Karla Homolka, helped him lure, torture, and record those victims. His attacks began in May 1987, which resulted in him assaulting over 19 victims, all between the ages of 15 to 21 years. He also managed to viciously murder 3 schoolgirls, Tammy Homolka, Leslie Mahaffey, and Kristen French. While Paul was serving indeterminate life sentences for his crimes, he confessed to another 10 counts of assault during the 1980s to his lawyer Anthony Bryant, one of which was a possible lead on today's victim's case, Elizabeth Bain. In 2004, appeal and retrial motions were underway for a man named Robert Baltovich, who was convicted for the 1990 murder of his girlfriend Elizabeth Bain. But during his original trial, the lawyer had suggested that the Scarborough Rapist was responsible for it. There was a series of violent sexual assaults that were committed by Paul Bernardo near the area where Elizabeth lived. This made him a prime suspect, as Elizabeth was certainly someone who fit Paul's MO. Watch with us as we decipher the psychopathy of one of the most notorious serial killers.
And seated to my right, if you could just identify yourself.
Paul Jason Teal, aka Paul Bernardo.
And again, my name is Brad Hoover, and today is June the 7th, 2007. Mr. Teal, the reason that we're here today is to speak to you in regards to a couple of matters. First of all, before we start, I just want you to make sure that you're aware that what we say is being videotaped here.
Yeah.
I'm just going to start this audio tape. I forgot to do that.
Being one of the most infamous cases, not only in Canadian history, but also worldwide, the case of Paul Bernardo got a lot of attention. Many psychologists drew a psychological profile of him, and not surprisingly, he was proven to be a clinical psychopath. The test used is called the Hare Psychopathy Checklist, or PCLR. He scored a whopping 35 out of 40, including many psychopathic traits. Deciphering his disturbing behaviors during this brief interrogation is proven to be an easy task due to how evident they are. One such example is how he remains relatively unbothered throughout the interrogation. Despite him confessing to killing another innocent girl, he remains weirdly detached. Another example is how he is utterly disobedient to the authority present in the room. In this case, it would be Agent Brad Hoover. When answering, he takes him lightly, does not directly look at him while answering, and keeps himself distracted by looking outside or in other directions. He's trying to undermine his authority so Paul can establish himself later on. Establishing his dominance is one of the problematic traits of Paul that, as you are now familiar with, became a central theme of his attacks.
I just started this audio tape here. We started the interview at 2:05 p.m. My name is Detective Brad Hoover. Paul, you're not presently being given a caution or anything, and I want you to understand that what you're saying to us today is voluntary. It means if you don't want to talk to us, you don't have to. Your counsel is present, and if you need to speak to him, you certainly can. But I just want to make sure that you understand that what you're saying here is voluntary, and that we're interviewing you as a potential witness. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Just a little bit of background about the first time we met back last year in April of 2006. That was in regards to a letter that you had sent through the Attorney General's office. It filtered down to my office in regards to some admissions that you made about some sexual assaults that you had committed. I'm here to tell you that I have concluded that investigation, and that there have been 2 offenses that I have been able to identify, and with the information that you provided to me at that time, was able to conclude those matters as having been committed by yourself. So for that, I thank you for that information. And
Sorry, you've identified
identified the
someone else
offense.
did them,
No,
or-
I've identified the offense that you were talking about, and based on that information, I was able to conclude those cases that actually provided enough information that I was satisfied that you were the person that committed those offenses.
Okay, now
Does
what
that
about,
make sense?
does that make sense? What about ones that you thought that I came forward with and maybe thought that I didn't do it? Was there any of those?
There was none that I thought that you didn't do. There was some that I didn't have enough information to either identify the offense because you were unable to provide enough details at that time, or they may not have ever been reported to the police. As you said when we spoke, some of them were, we'll call them minor type offenses, but
No, I understand.
offenses that may not have been reported to the police.
Okay, problem. I turned on the TV, I waited for Peel Regional to come by. September rolls around, they make a public announcement, it's written on my file here that I lied to police and I did not commit the crimes that I said I committed on the offenses in Peel Regional.
Here we will walk you through different traits of a clinical psychopath and why Paul Bernardo is the textbook example of it. The first trait is narcissism. Nothing bothers him more than being called a liar. A very common thing for serial killers is wanting to claim their victims, even if it means a longer sentence. He soaks in the vanity he gets from his heinous act.
They have told me that they don't have enough information at this point to identify anything that you've, the letter that was sent to the police, or through to the police, wasn't specific enough to identify any offenses. Now, that's something that we can talk about sort of following this interview, and if you want to get into that, we can talk about that.
Well, I've been sitting with this for years and it's written on my file and it makes me seem like, oh, he's just this crazy. You guys love doing that. I'm this crazy psychopathic liar. Why was that statement issued? Why didn't they come in and talk to me if they didn't have enough information? We were waiting on that tape. You can play that tape back. I asked you guys if Pure Regional were going to come in. I sat there month after month after month. No one came. I turned on the TV in September. Pure, declared that Paul Bernardo was, this crazy liar to police. What's the fundamental problem here?
Well,
I know. I mean,
I can't-
justice the Canadian way, and no one comes in, and now you guys are saying that you didn't have enough information.
well, I can't answer for them specifically as to what they did or didn't do.
The first thing Paul does is establish his dominance in the interrogation. He shows another psychopathic trait of boldness. He expresses his disagreement with the agent when he does not hear an answer that suits him, and he completely disregards him by not looking at him when he's speaking. He's not afraid of the consequences of his words or actions and challenges the authority of Detective Hoover. From this point, Paul will completely take over the conversation. This conversation mimics a boss having a meeting with his employees rather than a suspect with his interrogators.
I can tell you that because they're a separate police department, I don't have any control over what investigation that they did do. I can tell you that I have spoken with an investigator in Peel region, and they have told me that at this point they don't have enough information to move forward. They haven't been able to identify any offense that was specifically talked about.
That statement you're giving me is much different than the public statement they said, which said I was a liar.
Okay, well, I don't.
There's night and day, and they didn't come in. If they didn't have enough information, why don't you come in and get the information? I mean, either I'm lying or I'm not lying. And this goes to the crux of this argument. Either I'm a liar to you, I'm going to lie to you right now about everything, like I did to Peel Regional, according to their story, or I'm not. And, I'm not going to sit here, come voluntarily and have people come. You guys ban me from the press. You roll your stories over, and you constantly say that I'm a liar. I'm a liar. I made mistakes 17 years ago. Okay, fine, I did.
Another trait of Paul's evaluation showed that he is a pathological liar. It's truly ironic that he claims to be anything but a liar. Paul is the authority on minimizing his heinous crimes to look like mere mistakes, and you may think that labeling his misdeeds as a mistake is still remorse of some form, but with the appropriate context, the meaning of this statement changes entirely. Him saying mistake is not a reference to his crimes, rather the fact that he had lied to the police 17 years ago in an interrogation in 1990, because of which he is still being called a liar.
But now we're talking about today, and you're not going to roll forward that I'm some psychopathic liar sitting in jail claiming other people's responsibilities for other crimes. This is a total cross-examination point. You want to start this thing? Locklear is going to grab a hold of it and say, well, he lied about other crimes. You know, he's a crazy liar. Why didn't you guys resolve this?
And again, I can't answer for what Peel Region did or didn't do.
Jurisdictionally, we're kind of bound as to what takes place.
But still, the good guy's the bad guy. You know what I mean? You're on the same team.
Did you notice what just happened? This is the first time Paul is interacting with Constable Koulis, and his tone immediately becomes softer, and he's no longer trying to assert his authority like he did with Agent Hoover. As you watch along, you'll notice his attention shifts greatly towards her and how he tries to seek her attention.
Yes, we are, but as far as us investigating matters that take place outside of the actual Toronto proper, that's why Peel Region has their police service, and like Detective Hoover said, we can't answer as to what they did with their investigations or the issues that they were looking at that transpired out in their area, and we really can't speak to that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether that's something you wish to have your counsel deal with them on, and that's something else. But unfortunately, there wasn't a lot that Detective Hoover and I could do in regards to those things.
Well,
That's how it leaves
who's
you at a bit
ever
of a loss
watching this
right now.
thing, and they should subpoena these guys for Peel Regional. They can bring in all the facts to show just where I lied if I'm a liar. That's what I say to do, because either I'm a liar or I'm not a liar, and I'm not a liar. But you guys are trying to paint me as one. The public, according to the public, they turned on the TV in September of last year, and I was this crazy liar. That's what the TV reported, and not only did they report it there, they wrote it on my file. I've got it right myself. Paul Bernardo, Peel Regional said Paul Bernardo lied to police about crimes he didn't commit. Said he did.
Okay.
I mean, that's just awful. I mean, come on.
Okay.
Enough manipulation, you know what I mean? Either you tell the truth or don't, otherwise the whole purpose of any interview is just stupid.
The paradigm of the whole conversation changes when Paul is speaking with Constable Koulis. He maintains eye contact with her, addresses her properly, talks in a slower and gentler manner. These are his eccentricities that he did not give to Agent Hoover. He instantly starts speaking fast and in a rugged tone as he turns his head to Hoover again.
But when you go to a certain point of line, it affects me totally. You know, I made mistakes a long time ago. But don't say that today about me, because then we're lying, and then we got a big problem because I'm looking at you and you're the bad guys. Because I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm telling the truth, and you guys are walking around issuing statements that I lied here, I lied there.
Paul shows yet another trait of his psychopathic profile. He seems truly antisocial to the core. He does not hesitate to call his actions a mistake when talking about lying to the police back in 1990, but demanding to not be called a liar now lest his reputation be damaged, playing off his crimes as something normal and matter of fact. If minimizing his crimes is not enough, he talks about how these mistakes affect him personally and not others. It's baffling to see some so twisted and withdrawn from the idea of what is right and wrong in society, asking for the same rights as others. Paul has the audacity to call himself a human after committing the most inhumane crimes imaginable.
No?
Well, again, those are statements that were issued by Detective Hoover or myself, or
Yeah, I know, but I mean,
it's
it's Attorney General who sent you guys down here. He's fighting the case. He's taking the small bitch back, right? So it's really it's the same organization. Isn't it Attorney General? I see him on TV talking about it.
But this is a separate matter from what those issues were.
But it's still the Attorney General's office.
Yeah, it very well be, but
Perhaps two of the most evident psychopathic traits in Paul are his superficial charm and sense of grandiosity. He had been considered relatively attractive by himself in the media. That is also why he and Carla were referred to as the Ken and Barbie killer, and he dwelled on that. That is where his sense of arrogance sprouts from, and he uses his superficial charm to lure women to their doomed fates. He still thinks he's likable enough and tries to smooth talk with the Constable Koulis, imagining she'll fall for it. But he'll soon have the bitter realization that his appeal to women has ended.
like I said, we can't speak to anything that Peel Regional does or statements that they release out to the media because they have things that they were looking at.
It's the same thing. If I'm a liar, take the facts that they have. They can come down and talk to me. Any cross-examine, any defense lawyer, call them up and show me where I'm lying, because you're not going to find it. Maybe there's a minor mistake here and there. I think I had one thing about some driveway being where trees were. Memory over time. But to say that is just ridiculous. Just like you guys didn't go. You guys polygraph Harlan, ask her about it. Nobody from the Attorney General's went down there. Nobody cared. Again, it's the same. I know, but it's the same problem because you're making me out to be a huge liar. And this is a problem.
Well, I don't have any doubt as to what you told us before. The facts that I can verify, I believe were true, and And from what you've told me, you haven't told me any lies yet, so I have no personal reason to believe that you're lying.
Exactly.
So again,
Exactly. So, but this was different story than I've got on my file, and
again, I don't know what's in your
since
file
last time we met.
because I'm not privy to that information or what's there or what's not there. I'm just telling you from my perspective and from an investigative perspective into what I've looked into, to what admissions you made back in April last year. To me, I'm satisfied. I've done what I can do as far as the investigation. If you'd like to provide me with more information about the specific occurrences that occurred in Peel region, then we can talk about that after the focus of what we're here for today.
Karla Homolka is a sensitive topic for Paul Bernardo. He truly believes that he's been viewed in a bad light because of her testimony instead of his actual crimes. Even in this instance, he tries to devalue her credibility when he's already been convicted. In the end, all he cares about is his image and credibility. The only reason he's giving this interrogation is also because he wants to change the perspective of people. He's well aware that this will be watched by many people, and this staged performance of being honest will contribute to building back his image. It's also to be observed that this is the first time he's agreed to Agent Hoover in something. He tries to reinforce Hoover by saying exactly when his honesty during the interrogation is brought up.
But it is part of the focus.
Well, it
You know,
is.
it is.
It is and it isn't. I mean,
I think it
obviously, directly, we're here today to deal with the Balkovich matter that you're aware of.
But dealing with me, and it comes down to credibility.
Well, it comes down to credibility. It absolutely does, and that's what we're here to talk about today. And so let's deal with that, and then we can deal with the other stuff afterwards. Is that okay?
No, yeah, go ahead. I'm just making my point on it because it's going to have to be addressed sometime.
Absolutely, it will.
And it should have been. I mean, we dealt with that a year and a bit ago. So
Agent Hoover has finally managed to gain control of the interrogation. This only happened because he reassures Paul that matters of his concern will also be given importance. Agent Hoover is smart to appease Paul's narcissistic sense of self-importance, getting Paul to agree to talk about the Baltovich matter.
well, not quite a year actually.
A little over a year ago. I have some questions that were given to me to ask you in relation to the Balkovich matter, Robert Balkovich matter. Before we do that, I just want to say you understand obviously the importance of telling the truth and the consequences potentially of someone who lies to the police and not telling the truth.
I think we discovered that. Actually, I was referring, you guys tell the truth.
Right.
Agent Hoover has made a terrible mistake here by saying that Paul needs to understand the importance of telling the truth. Paul overstates his reaction with a bewildering laugh to express the absurdity of this claim.
Okay, so we're aware of that. And in this matter, I believe that you've had some conversation with your counsel in regards to it. And
You'll notice that Paul is desperate for any kind of reaction from Constable Koulis now. Every time he thinks he's outsmarting the agent or being funny, he'll look at her for validation. However, he's stopped getting any reactions from her. The disappointment from this is abundantly evident from his expressions. Imagine being a woman in the same room as a gruesome rapist and a murderer. The worst part for the detective is that he's trying to charm her like he may have done with his victims in the past. The detective may be well trained to deal with such criminals, but his smile alone is enough to send chills down the spine, especially for a woman. It looks like she looks away on purpose to avoid interacting with Paul in any way.
there has been some discussion about polygraph testing in this matter. Is that true or not true? Do you recall that?
Well, you're opening up cans of worms everywhere.
I'm just asking you a specific question.
You know, that goes back to you guys polygraphed everyone with the Camaro. You didn't polygraph Carla. And in 2 years since, have you guys gone down there and asked her? Have you settled the matter with it? Because you could say I lied or whatever on polygraph, but have you asked her? Because it comes down to a lot of that issue.
Okay.
You know, I mean, have you asked
let
her?
me-
Has the Attorney General gone down there?
Okay, I don't know. Let me tell you a little bit. My involvement with this overall investigation of the Balkovich is very limited. The only knowledge that I have is as to what investigation has been done or hasn't been done is specifically what's related to the conversations I've had about this interview here today.
Okay.
What other witnesses there are, I don't know.
In
What
answer
other
to
persons
in
there
answer
are.
to your question, I don't want to go off on tangents, but all these issues are relevant. I know you think they aren't, but
No,
they are. In answer to your question is we had some discussion on it, but when Corcoran from the OPP came down, before Carla was released,
Right.
I told him I'd be willing to take a polygraph on anything and everything. Would you, in turn, are you going to go down before you release Carla? Just ask her. She's not going to take it. She's going to fail on all these issues. Did her hand cause death? Yes, it did. Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Did this Tammy happen in July? It was a girl in January. I actually kidnapped and it got somebody I picked up at a bar that she tried to roll over, and all these other issues. All relevant. And so, and then I addressed it to you guys when you came back again last year. I said, yeah, I'll take a polygraph on anything because I'm not telling why I'm a thing. Have you, again, I asked the question, have you guys gone down and, I know Carla's free now. I'm not in the business of putting her in jail. It's not my thing. But my point was, did you ask her the question just so we get the story straight? I mean, if she refuses, well, there's a reason why she's refusing. And again, you guys couldn't provide the answer. And now, almost a year later, again, you don't provide the answer. So, I mean, I don't know what you're asking me. You're asking me to take a polygraph when you aren't willing to ask her?
Well, again, my part of this investigation is limited to what we're saying here today. So the details of all of what other witnesses may or may not have been asked or done, I don't know. And as a potential witness, I'm not allowed to tell you what other people have done. So that I have to sort of be careful about the way that it's answered, or even what you think my answer might be.
Yeah, no, I just wanted for the record that I gave you good information, which you guys could have, independent of me, could have verified my story or not.
Right.
And whether you guys do or do not is your business. Like I said, I'm not a prosecutor. Right. I'm not here to point the finger at anyone. But I showed you where to go. So if you guys don't do that, it's your business. But, to me, it's like, if you didn't, why didn't you? If you want to know the truth about things.
Right.
It's easy to lose perspective of the reason behind this interrogation. At face value, or from the information extracted here, you may think this has been done to revive the image of Paul. But the focus was the victim, Elizabeth Bain. But somehow, Paul has again taken over the conversation and made it about himself.
So I understand. And I understand what you're saying. So what we're here to talk about today, obviously know that this statement may be used in court or maybe presented to court as a voluntary statement.
Yeah.
Okay. A polygraph obviously is not something that's court admissible. And I'm not sure if you're aware of that or not, but it's not used in court. Okay. So the crust of what we're here to talk about is that it has been suggested that in the continuing case of the disappearance of Elizabeth Bain and the charge of murder against Robert Baltovich, that you are the alternative suspect, or an alternative suspect. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, great.
You'll notice that each time Detective Hoover brings up other witnesses, Paul will immediately cut him off in order to bring focus back to himself. Another common trait of psychopaths that is also clearly visible in Paul is lack of empathy. It's a possibility that he has only added Elizabeth Bain's name to the list of his victims to gain publicity. However, such cold reactions in the context of a dead innocent girl is hardly normal.
Did you kill Elizabeth Bain on June the 19th, 1990?
Well, it's a loaded question. I mean, are we going to go back and go through the time sequence of what happened in my life? I mean, I could just give a yes or no answer, but there's a lot of issues about that. Carlos and my role, who did what, where, when. This is why I said, did you guys, go down there to get a polygraph to see if she was telling the truth? Like, why didn't Bevan do it in the first place? I mean, he's polygraphing everyone with a Camaro. Why would he make a deal with someone and not give them a polygraph? It's not incomprehensible to me. Because now my file says her version, and it's a lie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm not making frivolous points here. I mean, and now you're asking me after you said Peel Regional said I'm lying about this, and then you're saying I'm lying about my profile. You're saying I'm lying if I'm better or not. Now you're saying, hey, did you kill this person? I mean, well, you're saying I'm lying here, here, and here. I could say, no, I didn't. But, I mean, you already said I'm lying here with the PO. You're saying. Okay,
I'm not saying anything about who's lying. I'm simply.
And I've given you directions to go to find the truth.
Right.
No one's done that.
And I've asked.
It's obvious that Paul has only one thing in mind, and that is to reestablish his image as an honest and upstanding criminal. When asked directly yes or no questions, he avoids them using semantics, because that way he can drag out the interrogation. This gives him the chance to talk up his character even more, but fortunately none of these tactics are going unnoticed. Constable Koulis draws in circular motion on the table while speaking to the counselor on the other end. She's indicating how Paul is going in circles, in an unending loop of the regional news coverage calling him a liar.
And again, I've told you that I've done investigations on information that you've told me, And as a result of that information, I've been able to verify in my mind where you told me the truth. So if Peel Region is lying about you or someone else is lying about you, I have no control over that, or
No, it goes right to credibility.
well, absolutely it does. And that's, I guess, the easy way then is to, if we can go through, we'll answer the questions. And yes, I hope to be able to go through some timeline to identify where you were, what you were doing specifically in relation to this case.
Anyways, I know I'm giving you guys a hard time being argumentative about certain things, but I mean, really, I'm a human being, and when you guys do all these things, I've got to. Anyways, I'll try and truncate it a little bit more. But anyways, the answer to that is no. But the 800-pound gorilla in the room that's a life 25 sentence. You know, it really comes down to credibility,
Right.
and not only credibility, but then again, timeline. I mean, between what Carla's and my roles were respectively, and this and that. The answer is no to that question.
The question that was called loaded has finally been answered. He's denied killing Elizabeth. This shows how his sole purpose was to manipulate the interrogation in a way that he's able to make the most of the footage that he's allowed to get through this. Fortunately, the people watching this interrogation, such as yourself, are also able to see through Paul's schemings.
Did you have anything to do with her disappearance?
No,
Did you know Elizabeth Bain?
not that I know of.
Had you ever met her?
I'm going to answer that with I don't remember, because if I did or I didn't, I don't remember. But I know an ex-girlfriend. I tried to say I might have, but I guess I don't remember.
You obviously are aware of her disappearance.
Sort of.
Do you recall when you became aware of this?
Best I can recollect is afterwards. Didn't follow me as much.
The date, obviously, June the 19th, 1990 was the
But
date.
you know, other than that, I don't remember. You know, maybe I heard about it before, but I can't recall if I did or not. But I remember in jail, I had newspapers after that fact. And I saw something on it. So.
We'll sort of get into that a little bit when you. I hope to go through a bit of a timeline with you as to some things that may jog your memory as to
We're talking.
back in that time. I mean, if you asked me what I was doing 3 weeks ago on Tuesday, I probably couldn't tell you unless you put some reference to it. So we'll hopefully be able to do that. And again, obviously, June the 19th, 1990, do you know what you were doing that day?
I don't know.
I have a document here in front of me that references some points in time around the June of 1990 period from police investigation. This is what indicates you may have been involved with, or may have certain things that you may have done. I'd like to go through a couple of them that sort of assist you in remembering what you were doing back in 1990. The first part of June 1990, actually June the 1st, Carla had a doctor's appointment where she was complaining of pains in her right side. Perhaps she had something to do with a rabies shot. Does that ring any bells?
No.
In the first part of June, you had a Nissan 240 SX, is that correct?
Yeah.
You were making several trips into the United States, June 2nd, June 3rd, June 10th, June 16th. I think at that point you were involved with cigarette smuggling and things like that, from what I recall. Someone said no?
No, that would be. No, that wasn't until after we did it. So.
Okay. So, making several trips to the States within a couple of days, is that something?
When we started the relationship, we were going over all the time, so just for personal reasons. So.
Okay. On June the 16th, you shopped at Rough Hewen. Is that in the Niagara Falls, United States? Does that store sound familiar to you?
Yeah, sounds familiar. I have no idea if those are the dates, but
Okay.
if you got a receipt for
I
it.
think there must be a receipt there. And again, I don't have all the details. I'm just going by what's on this sheet of paper. A black expandable binder. Is that?
I think. Can't recall 100%, but
Okay. That would have been around the same time. That was about a week week prior to if you purchased one of those Elizabeth Bain ones.
I have no idea when I purchased it. I just recall I had something like that, like an accordion binder.
Okay.
There is truly nothing that Paul hates than being called a liar. Right now, Agent Hoover is asking him questions about the facts that have already been established in the court. He's doing this to establish a timeline. Paul gives direct answers here as he understands that he will be labeled as a liar if his answers differ now. But a fact remains that for a suspect as manipulative as Paul, Agent Hoover may not have been the best choice. He seems less confident while presenting the facts. It's known that Canadian law officers are always respectful to the humanitarian treatment of all suspects. However, such humanitarian treatment may just be what individuals like Paul preys upon.
June the 16th, again, this has been the same day in St. Catharines, you attended a movie, Back to the Future 3. Do you recall when that movie came out?
No idea.
No. There's a receipt for a cell phone purchased at a Radio Shack at the Town and Country Mall at 6366 Yonge Street. You remember buying a cell phone?
I know I bought a cell phone around that time because when I declared bankruptcy, I handed my other one in. And then I bought the Radio Shack one. I don't know the dates.
Okay.
I know whatever the
That
date
would
is.
have been the day after Elizabeth Bain went missing. Do you remember anything you were involved with around that time? You say you were going bankrupt, so what type of activity you were involved in sort of on a day-to-day
The only
basis?
thing I remember with bankruptcy is that happened around a couple days before the sexual assault that the composite came up with. That was, if I recollect correctly, it was I think 2 days before I filed for that. But I couldn't even tell you that date. I just know it was sometime in. What date did you say that was? June
June the 16th of 1990.
When was that sexual assault? The one with the composite? Was it 24th, 20th? What date did you guys have?
A known fact about Paul is that he acted on his impulses a lot. This is also strongly implied in his psychoanalytic profiling. However, he's spent more than a decade in a correctional facility, and he has had ample time to look back on his crimes, but he still shows lack of remorse. His feelings towards his victims have not changed over time.
There was a sexual assault in May of 1990.
Is that the composite one in May?
I'm thinking that it is, but it doesn't say that specifically here. But shortly after that,
My timeline's off. I don't know.
at the end of June of 1990, that was the original, when someone identified you potentially as a Scarborough Rapist, a bank.
When was that? The end of
That was June the 28th of 1990. Lori Homolka's 19th birthday was June the 22nd, 1990. Do you recall her 19th birthday?
I know it was around that time, but I don't specifically call that first one.
The only reason that would maybe say because she was obviously then a legal drinking agent, perhaps. Would that mean anything?
Way before that.
June the 21st, so just the day after you bought the cell phone, you made a purchase at
I'm sorry, you're saying what, 19th was this girl's?
June 19th was the day she went missing.
What day did I buy that?
June 20th was the day you bought a cell phone. June
No,
21st.
see, I must have declared bankruptcy around then because I got that cell phone in the hand, but I had to hand all my items in to the trustee, and I had a Panasonic cell phone, and I handed that in, and I got the Radio Shack one. So it would have been right around the same time. I don't think I went a month without it. I don't think so. I might have, but anyways, I don't know.
Yes.
It was a while ago, so memory's a bit fuzzy.
Yeah, May the 29th, which was just before that, or about a month before that. That was the day that the police released the comms.
Oh, so it was May. So I lost a month.
Yeah, so that was
See what happens when you lock a guy up for 15 years and the window and stuff. The memory gets fuzzy. So I guess I waited a month to
So-
get the cell phone.
about a month to get the cell phone. Did you recall anything? What were you doing? Sorry, during that month, anything?
Probably the same thing as they're going across the border
Back and forth
for the
across the
recreational stuff. I know Tammy happened in July. That was, I think, the third week in July for the first time. But this was back a few weeks before.
Perhaps one of the most disgusting crimes committed by Paul were to his wife's younger sister, Tammy Homolka. Paul was unsatisfied with Carla because she was not a virgin when they started dating. So the only way for Carla to make it up, according to Paul, was sacrificing her virgin sister to him. They invited Tammy to spend some time with them at Carla's parents' home and doused her with alcohol. The couple used halothane on Tammy, which is an inhalation anesthetic. After that, Paul put the rag to her mouth, then assaulted her and videotaped this. But halothane mixed with alcohol proved to be fatal. They cleaned up the scene together and then called 911. Tammy was only 15 years old.
Okay, so just prior to Tammy's birthday, there was some shopping at a Canadian Tire store on Shepherd Avenue. Lori's birthday. 2 times in one day, you went to Canadian Tire on Shepherd Avenue, 1019 Shepherd Avenue. Does that normally shop at Canadian Tire stores?
Back then, that's before all these supercenter Walmarts and stuff came in Canada. So.
Do you ever recall having any conversations about the disappearance of Elizabeth Bain?
No.
If I played you it's going to play you a short audio clip. It's a conversation that you had, or a conversation between Tony Warr, who was an investigator with the Toronto Police, and Carla Homolka. I'm just going to play this, see if this sounds familiar or if it jogs your memory as to any conversation you may have had.
Was there any discussion, or has there been any discussion ever about Bain's disappearance?
I think the only thing that he ever said about her was that her boyfriend did it, or something like that. But there wasn't any real extensive discussion. But he talked about like all of the women that were disappearing.
And again, that was a conversation between investigator Tony Warr with the Toronto Police Service and Carla Homolka. Does that conversation, is that something that you may recall saying that to Carla or talking about that?
Well, she went down, Paul did it. Catchphrase was the trial, Paul did it. It was Paul. And she's continuing right there. She's going, with that. The fact of the matter is I didn't pay attention to anything. I didn't watch the news back then. I was too busy doing other things. I didn't pay attention. Like the profile is a serial killer, pays attention to all the news media. This is narcissistic personality, blah, 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 and all that crap. I don't know anything about this case now. I don't know if this guy did it. I don't even care. I'm not a prosecutor, do the right thing for society, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if he did it. I don't have the facts to if he knows if he did it. And I certainly didn't know that thing. So to say that, for me to make, she's alleging that I made a statement, the boyfriend did it. Well, some cases I have followed because I am in jail and I have nothing else to do but watch TV. But I weigh the facts. I take, like, did OJ do it, for example?
Right.
You weigh the facts about, whether he did or not, he got off. So, that's a lot. But I would have had to weigh the facts. I don't know the facts in the circumstances, so there's no way I could make a statement such as that. How could I say he did it if I don't know the facts of the case? So, no, she's incorrect.
And it may depend on when that conversation took place between her and the investigator.
Well, Warr, wasn't he back when the deal was made? And that was Warr, if I remember reading the transcripts, that was a name from from day one, when she signed her little 12-year deal, no polygraph required. Hey, I'm giving you the truth there. You guys can prove me wrong. Go down there, ask her. You'll get a no. I keep telling you, no one does it. But I don't know why. But so that sounds like a conversation. But that's what you do. You want to blame it all on the other person. You're going to paint that scenario. Like a psychopath scenario.
Do you know Robert Balkovich?
Just seen him on the odd time flashed on TV or whatever. like I said, I purposely avoided this case.
Right.
I don't like this shit in my mind, you know what I mean? You know, anything to do, you know, unfortunately when Carla came out, I watched and tried to discern truth back between fiction a couple of years ago. But otherwise, you know, I don't like to get into these things. I've had 100 lifetimes full of this stuff, you know, so, and I don't want my mind poisoned with this and this and this. So this case, I avoid it as much as possible. But I have seen this, you know, it's face on TV.
Right. Anything else you would like to tell us about this investigation?
And yet another time, when the detectives investigating the crime and the families of the victims were hopeful that Paul Bernardo would finally give in details to find their loved ones, he's disappointed them yet again. This was another power move for him to draw more attention. It seems it's true that the perpetrator never truly faces the same horror that they inflict upon their victims. Even till the very end, Paul continues to take pride in his crimes and used this interrogation as nothing more than an opportunity to be recognized for his victims' ruined lives. On March 31st, 2008, jury did the retrial of Elizabeth Bain case. Originally, Robert Baltovich had been convicted for her murder, but after discussions of Paul being an alternate suspect, the decision was changed. On April 22nd, 2008, Baltovich was found not guilty of the case. Paul Bernardo faced no charges for this murder, and the Elizabeth Bain case remains unsolved till date.